Hiya, this is KS4 Lifeskills lesson, and we have been doing a series of lessons about one of the essential skills of listening, and this is the final lesson in that series. So far we've talked about why listening is important, how we show that we are actively listening. We've looked at listening strategies. We've looked at how we form our own perspective on a topic or a conversation, and we've looked at the different types of bias that can affect us when we are listening to other people. And we're going to bring all that together today, and we're going to look at how different perspectives are formed and how it is important that we listen to other people's perspectives before we form our own opinions. So we've thought about how we can ensure that there's dialogue and there's conversation between different people, but why can't we just live in our own bubble and not worry about other people? So we're going to start to look at different people's perspectives.
What is the value of diverse views? Each of us only has an incomplete understanding of anything. Even experts in their field, or academics, spend a lot of time talking to one another to share different perspectives and to debate and try to reconcile different ideas about how the world works. By being open to different perspectives, we are open to expanding our knowledge and understanding of the world, recognizing and benefiting from the skills and experiences of others, appreciating different values and cultural norms, challenging our unconscious biases and assumptions. There is plenty of evidence that groups that work to incorporate diverse perspectives into their thinking make better decisions and get further as a result. This is because the human brain does not tend to worry about the limitations of what it knows. It presumes it knows enough and then keeps going. It takes an active effort to try to open up to different perspectives and to wrestle intellectually with the differences that emerge as a result.
So what is a perspective? Is it someone's view of something, a person who works in a team, an idea that solves a problem, or a way of recording what you've heard? Hopefully you know that the perspective is a different view. Which of these is not a value of considering different perspectives? So challenging our unconscious biases and assumptions, expanding our knowledge and understanding of the world, recognising and benefiting from the skills and experiences of others, or being able to challenge different values and cultural norms. So which one of these is not a positive that comes out of considering different perspectives? So we don't listen to other people just so we can challenge them. We don't want to challenge their values and cultural norms. We want to appreciate those differences. So, next task, we're going to apply what we've learned. So for each scenario, you're going to think about how this person's perspective might differ from your own and what you might gain from listening to their speech. So, Belinda lives in the United States of America. She's an advocate for prisoners' rights. She has dedicated her career to campaigning to end the death penalty, something we've talked about in many life skills lessons. And she believes that the criminal justice system should be based on rehabilitation. So again, for the second scenario, I want you to think, how might this person's perspective differ from your own, and what might you gain by listening to them? Aled was born with cerebral palsy and experiences symptoms such as tremors and muscle weakness. He has used walking frames and wheelchairs since early childhood. Aled is campaigning for better accessibility on public transport. In the third scenario, how might their perspective differ from yours, and what might you gain from listening to them? Hamza is a single father to 4 young children between the ages of 1 and 6. He works full-time in a shoe factory. Hamza is campaigning for increases in minimum wage and improved benefits for working single parents. So those 3 people have got a very different life to you. Their perspective is going to be different. What would they be able to tell you that you don't already know about? How might their experiences change your way of thinking? If you want to do an extension task, what I'd like you to do is to find a video or a podcast of someone talking on a topic, and I would really like you to seek out someone that doesn't agree with you. Okay, now this might be quite challenging and it might be quite unpleasant listening, but find someone that's talking about something that you wouldn't necessarily agree with, and I want you to just listen to their opinion. Okay, and I want you to think, why is their perspective different, and is there anything you can learn from them? I would really, really love to hear. If you have sort of broadened your horizons and listened to anything, then I'd love to hear about it. If not, I am an avid podcast listener and I can recommend some things that might challenge your ways of thinking. So what does it mean to have a different perspective? I want you to be able to tell me. I need you to be able to summarise that. And what is the value of looking at different perspectives? So, for example, when we look at the scenarios, how might someone come up against these people and feel slightly differently? So Hamza in his factory, who's working hard and wants an increase in minimum wage, we totally understand his perspective. He's got young children, he's on his own, he needs to provide for them. But how might the factory owner think differently to Hamza? And I want you to think about that in the other two scenarios as well. So Alid, who might have a different opinion to Alid, and who might have a difference in opinion to Belinda? And again, those are both examples. We've talked about disability discrimination in class, and we've talked about the death penalty in class. So they're both examples that you have probably heard different perspectives on, and I think it's really important that you think back and think, who might not agree with these people and why? And then for future application, I want you to think for the rest of this week, when someone's talking and you disagree with them, rather than arguing, shouting over them, I want you to stop and I want you to listen, and I want to think, what do I actually disagree with and why do I disagree with it? And I want you to start to try and do that in lessons and in conversations with people in your family and so on. And I want us to try and take on their perspective. I'm not asking you to agree with them. I'm asking you to listen and try and understand. So something we've been talking about again in school, and we have had many discussions about this in life skills lessons. Where do people's perspectives come from? Do they come from their knowledge, experience and skills? Do they come from their interests, their beliefs and values, or their assumptions? And I want you to think which one of those could inform someone's perspective. And hopefully you realise that it is all of them. Our perspective comes from all of those. What is an assumption? Is it something that, an event that we attend to gain an experience? Is it a view that we have based on a religious practice? It is a thing that we accept as true or certain, but we don't actually have proof of it? Or is it facts, information and skills acquired through experience or education? So if we make an assumption, we're accepting something as true without actually having any proof. And we make a lot of assumptions every day, and sometimes, it feels like it's the right thing to do, but we need to think carefully about the assumptions that we make. So your task today is to choose one of the topics, or you can come up with your own. Decide what is your perspective. Where does your perspective come from? Do you know anyone else who has this perspective on this topic? And where does their perspective come from? So, for example, I know I have very different taste in music to all of you. Where does this perspective come from? It comes from growing up in a different time, in a different era. The things that I listened to when I was younger were very different. The things that I looked up to, the people that I looked up to were very different. The cultural aspects of growing up in a different place, in a different time, have an impact. But also most of the music that I listened to, I came to love because of people who were older than me, like my sister. So people, my experiences, my beliefs and values. I find it very hard to listen to music that doesn't adhere to my beliefs and values. And I love listening to the lyrics and actually taking meaning from the lyrics. And my interests. I like to go out and dance and behave in a certain way, and the music that I like allows me to do that. It has found me friends, and it has taken me to places that I feel at home in. So my perspective on music, it's not just, oh, I like that, I don't like that. It comes from many different places. So I want you to choose a topic and then list all the places that love, that interest comes from. And just as a summary, what causes us to have different perspectives? Now, hopefully the written piece of work that you've done or are doing is going to help you with that. Where does your perspective come from? What are the main similarities and differences between two people's perspectives? So when people come at something with difference of opinion or a different set of assumptions, what are the similarities and differences? And then again, think about over the next week, I've asked you to listen to something that you don't necessarily agree with. Maybe try and talk to someone that you don't agree with. Find out where their perspective comes from. Okay, so lots for you to do there, lots of practical things for you to do, but also lots of things that you can be doing in your exercise book. And as I said, if you can get your work to us, photograph it, email it, however you would rather do it. If you want to do audio recordings or video recordings, absolutely fantastic. And we will use that because there are certification and AQA unit awards to go along with this work.